for all aspiring ADs of the future, this guy is a trailblazer. Arriving after the devastation of Hurricane Harvey, he navigated the organization through the COVID pandemic to the recent achievements of Vision for the Future, an $80 million fundraising campaign. He has directed productions of Murder on the Orient Express, The Winter's Tale, 1984, Sweat, Born with Teeth, his adaptation of A Christmas Carol, his translation of The Servant of Two Masters, and Thornton Wilder's The Emporium. He was formerly the artistic director and co-founder of the Cutting Ball Theatre in San Francisco. He also directed Strindberg's The Black Glove in Stockholm, Sweden at Strindberg's Intimate Theatre. He has translated Wojciech, Uburua, Pellas and Melisande, The Bold Soprano, The Chairs, No Exit, Communique, Number 10, Where and When We Died, The Blind, and The Servant of Two Masters. Enjoy the company of my next guest, David.
Tuli ja mä katsoin sitä meininkiä. Se oli siinä ja hetkessä kiinni. Mietin jos tää diiva halu koskemaan antaudu. Voi kääntää toista poskeen. Sopiva ylimielinen. Tanssilattialla meni yli miehien. On sekaisin näissä askeleissa kun ikinä ollut jalat kiiparketeissa. Liikkeessä on priima kengissäni liima. Taida tietää kuka mun jengissäni liidaa. Eikä tänään se on minä vaan diiva. Ja mun on pakko vaan tsiikaa. Sä tanssit niinku diiva. Mut liikkeessä on vaan priimaa. En pisti muita tsiikaa. Sä olet aivan liikaa. Sä tanssit niinku diiva. Mut liikkeessä on vaan priimaa. En pisti muita tsiikaa. Sä olet aivan liikaa. Oh oui, señorita. Ei kaada margarita. Vaikka en mä sano ääneen, niin myönnä koko jääneen. Yeah, frendi sanoi, en mä pilasin chanssit. Sanoi, meillä on kohta Figaro hääti, kun sä näet sit. En mä halu tästä pitkä suhdet. Oisin ottanut onnen, kun Warren Buffett. Että diivaan sulla on hallus muuvit. On halukkaana oppimaan laskutuusit.
This is a hypothetical situation.
They basically nailed it on the head. This is the reason why we said we have to go with her. We just have to. She says she plans to enter the rehearsal room as if it were a bedroom used for childbirth. I thought that I've never heard Much Ado About Nothing described with such eloquence. It was so concise that I just felt immediately, David, be quiet. Don't say you're hired because that's not the procedure. You need to now say thank you very much, etc., and then get back to her. But I already made up my mind. And I just waited for her to leave the room. And of course, over the weeks, we went through all the applications as you're supposed to do. And yeah, it wasn't unanimous. There's a lot of people who wanted other candidates to come forward for this. Some of the actors who were there, they wanted somebody else. And I was just resilient. I just thought that, you know I know I don't have the last say here, but I'm going to push for it, Rob. And so I said that, can we invite her back in with another candidate? Which was a good idea because we got a chance to hear her come back again and say what she was going to do for our house by bringing Much Ado About Nothing to the stage. It's a simple procedure. And she says, the play Much Ado About Nothing is based on the common fact that rumors are spread intentionally to either bring people together or tear them apart. Again, it was just so eloquent, so concise that even the other creatives this time were convinced. And I just said, well, I think you've got the job. So please do draw on your experience. That's all I said. I just said, draw on your experience. Well, I get a phone call from the chair, and she's not going to start the production. I said, but what happened? Apparently, she might even start a litigation claim related to discrimination. And I thought, discriminate? I'm sorry. For the love of God, I have no idea what you are talking about. We just offered her a job, and she signed the contract. Well, the chair says to me, she's changed her mind. Some serious negative consequences, she says, will follow if she takes up this engagement with me as leader of the house. I've got them here. She's put here that I have encouraged gossip inside the rehearsal room, and I wish her to encourage that amongst the ensemble. And she has said that this will have negative consequences, which may include the following: lost productivity and time wasting, erosion of trust and morale between members of the working community, increased anxiety among the employees as rumors start to circulate without any clear information as to what is fact and what is not, growing divisiveness amongst employees as people take sides. Oh, come on. And that might actually deteriorate the unity of the ensemble. Hurt feelings and reputation, jeopardizing chances for the gossipers to advance as they are perceived as unprofessional, and some good members of the ensemble and other fellow technicians and creatives in the team might wish to leave the house due to an unhealthy work atmosphere and lack of trust. I simply said, draw on your experience. That's all I said, Rob. I swear to you, I said nothing else. So now I have to go to see the chair and explain that this will be resolved and how I'm going to resolve it. And I said, of course I will resolve it. Not a problem. The board needs not concern themselves. You need not concern yourself, because this is the reason why you brought me to the job. You brought me to the job because you didn't want a tsunami of litigations related to discriminations of various types. And I'm now being accused of discrimination. Me. It's just look at me. You know, why would I? Look at me? I'm hardly going to discriminate against anyone. You know, I'm of restricted height. Everyone in our house is of restricted height, and we're entitled to work in the performing arts. Just because of we're restricted height, doesn't mean that we're not people. We are all a community here, and yes, as a community, we will gossip when she, as a visiting director, comes into the rehearsal room. Rob, she is very tall. And you are one of my tallest friends. And in case I've overlooked something, perhaps you could just give me a heads up just before I meet the chair tomorrow. Maybe I've overlooked something.
Yeah, no, I do think this is the world we live in today. That it sounds like it was. I don't think you've done anything wrong. It sounds like it was a misunderstanding, a misheard, comment. But in the world of Facebook and Instagram, a bad, slip of the tongue or something, something misheard or missaid can blow up and become much bigger. And while you don't need board involvement to resolve it, it is good for the board to have a heads up that this kind of online chatter may be coming. I don't think you've done anything wrong, but I think giving the board a heads up that the online chatter's been coming, and if you have your marketing team kind of huddle up and kind of prepare yourself for what your response is going to be, and having been through these kind of things before, my advice is to have it be very, very simple, very clear, very short, and not get into the details, because I feel like what theaters, especially in the US, where they fumbled is they have a misunderstanding, creative differences, and the artist is going to go out and start making chatter, and the theater puts out a statement, and that's good, but then they get goaded into going through all the details and playing it all out with the public, and that's where you go wrong, because that's where you start talking about things that would be inappropriate to talk about, and the theater just has to take the high road and say something like, there was a misunderstanding between the theater and this director. We wish her well, and we'll be going on with a new leader of the show, and just keep it at that.
I'm sorry to just make that situation up, but it does happen so often. I know it's fiction what we was just doing there, but
Yeah.
I'm sure our viewers would, in some respects, say that, hey, I've had a similar situation.
A lot of tall Canadian TV shows. For instance, Traitors, right?
Okay.
Traitors was a really tall actor. I know, but here's the thing. This is why you and I will probably
Never work together.
not work together.
I'll bring the apple boxes.
Just sit down. Like Rick Roberts and I will probably never get to work together. I was on this show called The Expanse, a sci-fi show, and the character had to be, the captain of this Martian ship had to be Asian. It was like, there's a book, right? And so they'd been auditioning and all over the place, and I got the job, which they were happy about because I'm a Toronto local, and it was, but I realized when I got to set that they had designed and built the set specifically for me. They had built the captain's bridge 8 inches higher. I had basically, so that I was pretty much, eye to eye with Stephen Schmidt and Greg Bird are both the other actors I'm mostly working with, really tall actors. They're 6'2" or something like that. But I was still obviously shorter than them, but it was basically a giant apple box. I thought, this is it.
But come on.
I like space.
Most big stars, male, are short.
Well, I don't
talking
get to
Hollywood.
work with them.
They mostly are short. There are not many tall stars out there, male stars.
There are a lot of tall male
Short
actors.
people
though.
look better on film. Tall people don't look better. Because short people are actually
George
more
Clooney and Brad
compact.
Pitt
They
are
fit
both
together better.
They're both 6'1". Exactly.
Exceptions.
There's this height 6'1" where you could take you could line up all these big Hollywood stars and they're all yeah.
I have a technique where I look at the actor and look at the doorknob. I look to try to figure out how
There's
tall they
room
are.
for us all, tall and short. Diversity of height.
Cameras
Let's
like
go
short
for it.
people better.
Yeah, but there was that show. What was that? Dan Harmon show, Community, and one of the few casts, and you see it in comedy more, where you have tall and short people in the same cast, but almost never in drama.
The job of an artistic director is not just about putting the repertoire together anymore, is it?
Yes.
It's you sort of need to have a skill set involving many professions.
For sure.
And I was just going to ask you, because you are a director yourself, so
Mhm.
is there a difference? And if there is, what is that difference between you being a theatre director and an artistic director?
Yeah. Well, I think like a lot of people, I started as a director with an idea of how do I get my shows done, and I was a freelancer sometimes, but eventually I just felt like I needed to start my own company to do my own work, and that my own company kind of became my thing to showcase my work. But in order run a theater, I had to learn the skills of being an artistic director, which is about leading an organization, reporting to a board, um, doing things that are certainly more corporate, having an HR department, and doing things right, and dotting your I's and crossing your T's, and also being a good listener, listening to all different kinds of points of view. I think a freelance director can often be very focused on their own singular vision. And I think as an artistic director, you really have to understand where your costume shop is coming from, where your scene shop is coming from, what your box office people are dealing with, especially post-pandemic when, audiences. I mean, I talk to my box office people, and they, post-pandemic, all customer service people are experiencing more kind of wild and crazy behavior. We joke that some people, not all people, some people kind of went feral over the pandemic, and they're just not used to dealing with people anymore, and so they don't know how to how to just be nice and polite and patient.
On the back of that, you mentioned some of the corporate responsibilities that need to be found within the artistic director's skill set. And yeah, well, Rob, you've got quite a chunk of a corporate responsibility on your shoulders with the rest of your team, of course. $80 million fundraising campaign. Tell us about this $80 million Vision for the Future campaign. It's the largest in your region.
Yes. Well, and this may be for your European audience. A blessing and a curse of the American theater is most of our money we have to raise ourselves, right? So we don't have much government support. Of course, we're often really jealous of you, of your government support. But then on the other hand, when there's a change in, when our president changes or our Congress changes, it doesn't affect us in the same way it affects, say, my friends in Poland, where a conservative government came in and demanded changes of all the leaders. That doesn't happen with us. But it does mean a lot of fundraising is on our shoulders. And so we get donors to sign on to the vision of the theater. And for us, our theater had a very modest start in 1947. A woman named Nina Vance was excited about the regional theaters in Europe. A lot of Americans, after the war, wanted America to have the kind of things y'all have in Europe. And like a big symphony, a big opera, a big theater. And she just sent out 113 postcards to the city leaders and said, do you want a theater in Houston? Come to this meeting. And it started in a dance studio, a rented dance studio, and it was at the end of an alley. That's what we called the alley theater. But now we're in a beautiful 1968 brutalist building. It's a big cement castle. It looks a lot like the National Theatre in London, and we still, every 5 years, identify capital expenses that we needed. It's usually expenses having to do with the building, expenses because we're in hurricane territory. So we've had our theater flooded twice, and now I'm knocking on the wood behind me. We've got now we've got a lot of technology that protects the theater from hurricanes, but we've asked for help in paying for those changes. Then we have a fund for artistic enhancement. So to give me more money to work with beyond ticket sales. So donors identifying, we want to support the artistic vision of the theater. That's a section. And then the biggest section of this campaign is our endowment. And that's money that ensures that the theater keeps going through good times and bad times. So that's a big, we've got a $25 million matching grant. So 50 million of that 80 million is the grant and the match of that grant. But that's pretty much the whole package.
The Alley Theater has been one of the most important theaters in the United States since the Second World War. I mean, really, when you look at the history of the Alley, you can say that the regional theater movement really started in Houston. And what Nana Vance was able to do there sort of set a bar for the rest of the country for what the theater could aspire to be, the theater as a kind of spiritual center of a community. And what that woman unleashed back in the late 1940s continues over the decades and decades since.
This campaign is the legacy of Nina Vance. And this theater is Houston's theater. And now we want to invest in the future. We want to make sure that the Alley is in great shape for future generations.
This is only the fourth artistic director that the Alley has had in 72 years. And it couldn't have been more important to make sure that we had the absolute right person for the Alley at this time.
And so this was our chance to really help shape the future. And the work on this stage and the people that put it here.
Rob is part of a new wave of artistic directors, and he will create work at the Alley that is individual, that is unique, that is distinctive, and that is deep. I think the Alley is going to have an explosion of creativity that will not only be important for Houston, I think it's going to be important for the whole country.
I can feel the momentum of the Alley and the enthusiasm of the Alley already. I have inherited a really, really strong, robust organization with people who are incredibly resilient, incredibly passionate about what they do. And I just felt like, wow, Houston is committed to the arts, and Houston loves their arts.
If you invest in the artistic product, the quality of the work on the stage, the audiences here respond, and they come out in large numbers. So as part of this campaign, we're investing $1.5 million extra a year in the artistic product. With these funds, what is your vision?
Well, the first thing is I've got to make sure everybody who loves the Alley continues to love the Alley. To come to the Alley and feel like this is the theater I've been coming to for 40 years and I still love it. And then to bring a lot of new diversity, opening the Alley up to more of Houston.
And so you're balancing the need of the community so that your theater is at the heart of the community, and the community is at the heart of your theater.
In the same room.
In the
same room.
Yeah.
To have a shared experience where everyone is focusing and participating. For this moment, you're all going to have the same feelings and empathetic moment about what is happening on that stage. And you all have to experience and be in the same room together.
There's a connection there.
There's a family.
There's a family feeling. And the community, the DNA of that community is the resident acting company, because that is the backbone of this organization.
Every famous theater, every major theater in theater history had an acting company. And the Alley Theater is one of the only theaters left in America with an acting company. And I feel like, in a time where you mainly see movie stars playing themselves, we don't have as good an understanding of what great acting looks like. But when you see Elizabeth in The Mousetrap and in The Humans playing two totally different characters, the same person, you really get a sense of what a great actor is.
It's amazing to me to feel like I can now work with actors that come in from New York that are twice my age, and I've done 3 times the number of roles that they've ever done.
I bet.
It's a great privilege.
You know, I feel like a theater this size also has an obligation to be a model for other theaters in the field and to be a leader in the field and be doing work, initiating work that will start here and then go out into the world.
That excites me. A company that still feels like it is organic and is growing, that knows where it wants to go and is willing to experiment and is not locked in to what it did the last 60 years.
I mean, there's so much from the past, but I'd point out that this is an interesting moment in terms of what's happening right now. In Washington, D.C., we have running Queen of Basil by Hilary Bettis. In New York City, we have The Cake running, which is a play we developed in our Alley All New Festival. Described the Night by Rajiv Joseph, which we commissioned and premiered and developed. And it also went on to win the Obie Award for Best New American Play the year that it was produced here.
What the Alley does in supporting new work is really vital. And that travels on, that reverberates to other regional theaters, to New York City, to Chicago, and around the world.
And I think the Alley, I mean, you're strong because because of the people here, but you're also strong because you faced these huge difficulties in the past 2 years, Hurricane Harvey.
We were in the first week of our rehearsals for Describe the Night, which was the world premiere of my play, and we had been told there was a storm coming. The storm was supposed to last a few days, and the rains came and didn't relent, and the city became submerged with water. 2 days into it, I think, we walked down to the theater, and I took a video of the water flowing into this door. The walls broke, and the water was just pouring in. The entire house of the theater, the entire stage of the theater, was under about, 15 feet of water. I immediately just assumed that the play was done, like it was not gonna happen. When I ended up meeting with Dean, he said that they had found a new space and that we were gonna continue with our play, which was extraordinary to me.
And we looked at him and said, oh no, we're doing the play. We're doing the play right on schedule at U of H. And it was unbelievable.
The show must go on.
And it did. We're going to make sure that nothing ever gets into this building again. And we're working with FEMA on this. We're putting waterproof doors on all the exterior doors, whether it's on the garage side, or whether it's on the street side, or whether it's on the tunnel side. We will be completely protected going forward in the future.
But that said, we also had to figure out how we're going to pay for all this, because it is our building. So part of the campaign has a rainy day fund in it and financial security moving forward.
This campaign affects every part of our operation. We've set up a rainy day fund just for operating. And then we've set up another fund for capital improvements. We're also raising about $31 million for the endowment, $19 million for artistic initiatives. And then finally, of course, we've got paying for Harvey.
There's such potential for the Alley to just burst forward, and it just needs that bit of support to get us across the finish line. So
This is the moment where you have to take a huge leap forward. If you stop and say, we've done it and we're set and we've got our new artistic director and we've got our theater, then we're going to languish.
This place has been my artistic home for 32 years. I've benefited a lot. It's given me a life in the theater. And I want other people to benefit. I want other people to profit from it the way I have.
And at this moment in history, what we all depend on is private philanthropy. It's clearly not a moment when the government is supporting the nonprofit arts. That's not where we can look. So what I can say is that you're not actually giving to the theater, you're giving to the whole community. And that's the real benefit ultimately from philanthropy. You are benefiting from helping to create a community in which you can live.
I'm hoping that the Capital Campaign will allow people from all the communities of this city to be able to see themselves up there and to also know that they are welcome in this house.
This campaign is about the future. This is about the future of theater in Houston. And if we don't do this now, that quality is not going to go on. So it's necessary right now.
Thornton Wilder. How on earth did you discover this? It's just amazing that Thornton Wilder will now come back to our stages around the world. I can't wait to see this play.
It's a lot of things. One, it's the last time we'll ever have a world premiere of a Thornton Wilder play. This was, he won the Pulitzer Prize for Our Town and The Skin of Our Teeth and his novel The Bridge of San Luis Rey. And he wrote a lot of novels, but he really only wrote, 4 full-length plays. The Matchmaker is an adaptation of a German play that existed already. And then, of course, Skin of Our Teeth and Our Town won the Pulitzer Prize. And, and then for about 2 or 3 decades, he worked, on this play called The Emporium, which was inspired by Kafka's novel The Castle. And in the same way, in Kafka's novel, there's a guy, he's trying to get into the castle. He doesn't know how to get in. Thornton Wilder wanted to write a play set in the US, in America, with the castle being an American department store, and it being a metaphor for a life in the arts, and that this striving, like, how do you get a job here? How do you get in? That's kind of what the play is about, and it's proved to be, and some innovations, and these are Wilder's innovations. He wanted in every scene for the audience to play a different choral part. So in the first scene, they're supposed to be rioters outside of the department store, then they're orphans in an orphanage, then they're sheep, and later on they're stars in the sky. And so it's really innovative. It's kind of immersive, and the audience is engaged, and I mean, way ahead of its time. I mean, this is, if you think we've got, immersive theater only being, kind of the thing now, but he was experimenting with it way back when. And a friend of mine, Kirk Lynn, who has a small theater company, a devising theater company in Austin, he became fascinated with Thornton Wilder and wanted to read everything he wrote. And when he read the journals, he kept hearing about, because for literally 20 years, Thornton Wilder would write about the progress he was making on The Emporium. It was slated to be on Broadway twice. The cast was announced, but he pulled the play. He felt like it wasn't ready, and they published two scenes from the play. But Kirk kind of had this feeling that he didn't work on it for 20 years and have it not exist. He said it must exist somewhere. So he went to the Yale Beinecke Library, the rare books library and archives, and asked to see Wilder's papers. And there's a box called The Emporium, and there's about 360 pages, and there are 9 scenes to the play. And so it's not like the case of some unfinished works where it just cuts off at a certain point. Like, for example, Kafka's The Castle is unfinished and it just cuts off. Wilder wrote many versions of all 9 scenes. So there are not only all 9 scenes, there are many versions of the 9 scenes. And so Kirk asked to get permission to kind of put together a final version of this play. And the Thornton Wilder estate not only said yes, but they encouraged Kirk to put a little bit of himself and his own spin. They said, do it your way. Don't feel like you've got to be, even though Kirk had a great sense of, fidelity to Wilder, but he was also encouraged to bring a little of his own spin on things. And it winds up being just a really, really terrific new Thornton Wilder play, which I thought we'd never be able to say, but we can.
your house, the Alley Theatre, is renowned for bringing these classic masterpieces to the stage, as well as new plays, new writing. And yeah, well, you're recognized. You're a Tony Award winning house. And you announced just recently that next season you're going to have some changes to the artistic team. So immediately my interest was spiked, because I just thought, well, what kind of organizational transitions will that involve? Because one of the changes is removal of the literary manager to another term called head of dramaturgy. Now, that connotes something different. And I'm wondering how that will fit. On the one hand, you have these audiences who have come to expect a certain type of service from the Alley Theatre, and that's understandable too. On the other hand, you also have a new community, a new potential audience who perhaps would like to come to the theatre, but maybe your programming doesn't resonate with them. You cannot sort of ignore your hardcore, faithful audiences who have always been there. And at the same time, you cannot ignore these other audiences who perhaps are looking for something different in your repertoire. Is this the reason why you have chosen to change your literary manager role into head of dramaturgy?
Well, no, not for that reason, but there are a lot of reasons. One, I've been here for 5 years now, and all my changes have been kind of gentle. I didn't, when I came in, the theater was kind of in a state of trauma. They'd had an artistic director leave, and a lot of there was a lot of kind of chaos, and I felt like the new artistic director should be me, should be stabilizing things and giving people a chance for a new regime, not kind of clearing house and bringing in all my people. So I mean, I've made little changes along the way, and so those were part of the announcements. The literary manager to head of dramaturgy, it really comes from the fact that my colleague and very good friend Liz Frankel, who was our director of new work. So we had a director of new work and a literary manager, and our director of new work, Liz Frankel, moved to Austin, which is 2.5 hours away. She was commuting for a couple of years, and eventually she just felt like, I can't do this anymore. And so when she left, it allowed us to think about changes. And Bradley Michalakis, who is was our literary manager, we wanted to elevate him to director of new work, but we realized where Liz was exclusively focused on new work, Bradley was equally interested in classics, adaptations, and dramaturgy, and helping from a dramaturg. Liz was also great dramaturgically from a kind of script doctor standpoint, but then Bradley loved all the researching of classics and putting together a dramaturgy packet. And so we just felt like it serves Bradley well, and it serves the theater well to have a head of dramaturgy who's equally interested in new plays and classics. But to your point about the old audience and the new audience, that is also a big part of my mandate when I came in, because the Alley is in Houston, Texas, which the New York Times called the most diverse city in America. And one thing I said when I came in is that I feel like our theater should reflect that diversity with the art we put on our stages, with our staff, and with our board. And so I've been doing a lot of changes to make that true. And as you say, making sure that we're also doing some things that still feel like the stuff we've always done. So we're trying, the nice thing is we do 11 plays a year, 11 new productions a year. And so with 11 productions, you can really strike a balance. You can do things, you can do some things even, make some people mad, whichever way, but you can say, listen, this is one show out of 11, come back to the next one. You'll, maybe that'll be more up your alley. So, yeah.
A future Thornton Wilder could be found somewhere in this world, possibly in their bedroom, scribbling away at their masterpiece as we speak. To those kind of playwrights, what is your position as a theatre house? Do you accept unsolicited plays, or do you prefer to have plays submitted to you through a recognized representative or registered agent?
Yeah, we do, and I can explain the policy. We do accept unsolicited scripts from playwrights living in Texas. And for everybody not in Texas, we ask that you submit through an agent. And there's kind of a double reason for this. I mean, one, we're a very, very big theater. So for the most part, we are not the theater for someone's first ever production. If you're working at the Alley, you probably have lots of experience at other theaters, Then at the same time, and that's where the agent comes in. So it helps us get a certain level of experience in our playwrights. At the same time, we're the biggest theater in Texas, and we feel like we should be nurturing our Texas audience, and they shouldn't feel that they need an agent to submit to us, and we we may not do the productions, but it's helpful that we're reading it, giving feedback, even giving reading opportunities for our local Texas playwrights, so that we're making sure that the local playwrights are getting better and better and better, and that they get to enjoy the fact that this theater serves them too.
Our organization represents freelancers across the board in various disciplines in the performing arts. There's a lot of freelancers who are curious to know, what is the official procedure for recruitment? How do they contact you, submit their resume, etc.? Could you please share that information with us?
Yes, we have a website, and there's a tab for getting involved. We also post all our open positions, so if people want an open position, they can apply for those, but they can also send a resume just to have us keep it on file. But we also have agents who kind of are letting us know about interesting artists' work. I'll say two things. I mean, again, it's the same as with the playwrights, where we don't tend to be the theater for someone's first opportunity in the theater. So part of my job is getting to know lots of people's work and going, I go to lots of plays locally in Houston, but I also go to plays in New York and around the country. So I'm getting to know different artists and their work, and taking meetings with people, getting together for coffee. So just getting more and more artists on my radar. I spent a year of my life in Europe, seeing theater, and so European theater artists, and I continually go to festivals, you know, the Avignon Festival. I go to a lot of festivals in Poland, the Divine Comedy Festival and the Biennale in Venice. So I very much yearn to work with interesting international artists. Unfortunately, right now, our government is really makes it really hard to get a visa, and so there's a lot of hoops to jump through. It's not impossible, but it's not as easy as you all have it with working from one European country to another. We're also forming a partnership with the National Theatre of Mexico, and again, you know, they're our neighbors. But even that is going to be a challenge because working across the border is difficult in the U.S. right now. I hope that changes, and even though it's a challenge, it doesn't mean it's something that we can't overcome. But it's just it's trickier than working with people in our own country right now.
Jag har märkt att du kan svenska. Så du är välkommen till Finland att samarbeta med oss.
Tack så mycket. Jättebra.
Rob, thank you so much.